So on the last repeat of round 51, and that's it right here, because here is our start of round or beginning of round markers. We've completed all of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove, or we're going to slip these finished 6 stitches of the last round, or sorry, last repeat of 51 onto the left-hand needle. But before we do that, we're going to remove our stitch marker because we want to change our beginning of round. So I take the stitch marker off. I'm going to move. Ooh, it's on Ravelry already as a free PDF. Thank you, Janet. I am going to totally look that one up. Okay. That's those that historical pattern. Okay, so I'm going to slip the last 6 stitches that were worked of the repeat of round 51. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to place my stitch marker right there to mark the new beginning of round. And I'm going to slip those 6 stitches that were worked previously, tip to tip, back onto the right needle. There we go. So now we're able to work the transition round, or sorry, row, repeat. Oh my gosh. If you're working from the chart of the transition repeat, you'll notice that there's a little gap between the 6 stitches and the rest of the repeat. The only reason why I did that is to show that those 6 stitches were in the first round are worked already. So we're just going to continue from where that little gap is to the end of that transition repeat. Okay? So and this is pretty easy, the transition repeat, because it's just knit through the back of the loop, knit through the back of the loops, and purl the purls. Although one of the knit through the back of the loops, you'll notice, will become, and it's this one right here, that becomes a purl. So you have to kind of make sure you're cautious of that. If you have looked ahead to the chart pattern for the crown decrease, you'll notice that where we had to do the 1 by 1 LPT or the RPT, and the reason why we did that is to get those 2 knit through the back of the loop stitches to sit together, because they're vital in the design for the decrease. And that's also why we're moving our stitch markers so they will line up. And I got a few of my stitches twisted here because I had ripped back and re-knit. So I'm just kind of fixing their orientation as I go. Okay. Now, I'm at the end of my transition round repeat, the first one. I'm at the end right here, and I have 6 stitches to go before that stitch marker. I'm going to remove these off the left needle, place them onto the right needle, tip to tip, and then remove the stitch marker. Return these unworked stitches back to the left needle and place the stitch marker at the end of that transition round repeat. So I'm just going to slip them tip to tip. There we go. Remove my marker, which is such a cute little marker. It's like a little sheep. Return those 6 slipped stitches, tip to tip, back to the left hand needle and put my end of repeat marker in its proper place. Oh, I can't speak today. Okay, so now those 6 stitches we can work because they're on our, if we're looking at the chart, the transition round repeat, we simply just work from where, like the full black box now. So we'll do that up. And there we go. Okay, I'm just taking a quick look here. So Saskia, you said I moved my marker by 6 stitches to the right. That is correct. That is correct. And going to keep going. I had every intention yesterday. I think I showed at the end, towards the end of my show yesterday, that my yarn mess, which is the rest of this skein, I had every intention of working on that last night. Did I do it? Oh. But I was tickled pink, so to speak, that my daughter, she got to work with my brother on a construction site yesterday, because they didn't have school yesterday. And she learned how to do crack filling, and it's like prepping the walls before you paint them. Like where you use, we call it mudding here. I don't know what other places will call it. It's like you use a plaster to fill in any nicks and whatnot, but it's new gyprock sheets that they're putting to the wall. And so she got to do taping and mudding and sanding, so she was filthy. But she loved it, and I think that's fantastic, because it just means that when she has her own home later on, she can certainly work with confidence, restyling whatever she wants to do. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of the second repeat of the transition round. And it's pretty much the same thing over and over until we get back to the beginning of the round marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And I'm just double checking. Yep. So this is the end of the transition round repeat. I've got 6 unworked stitches before my marker. I'm going to slip these stitches tip to tip to the right, remove the marker, slip those 6 unworked stitches back to the left hand needle, and place the marker where it needs to be at the end of this round or repeat. So I'll do that. Now I see some messages in there in the chat about, I think it's about the gloves on Ravelry. I'm so curious now. I'm gonna have to take a look. Okay, so I remove that marker, returning the 6 stitches back to the right hand needle. There we go. And placing the marker in its new proper position at the end of that transition repeat. And we're ready to start the transition repeat again. I was on Ravelry this morning, and there's people that have completed hats already. I was like, holy smokes, that is so awesome. And I've had a few people actually say to me that, you know, they signed up and they didn't receive a lot of the pattern pieces. Like, I think we talked about this before. I think, Saskia, you were one of them too, where just randomly my emailing service would skip people when I was emailing out the pattern pieces. But this time, what I'm going to do is, after tomorrow, I am going to just, I'm changing the pattern to a paid pattern, and everyone that participated, so I have all your emails in my database, I'm just going to email you out the free pattern plus the code. So that way when you download it, in Ravelry, you can store it in your Ravelry library, which makes it easier. So So if there was anyone who didn't get to follow along because, you know, life things happens, right? And do the knit along with us, they'll still get the free pattern because they signed up. Saskia, when you said again, do you mean that you... Oh, I think I'm doing it wrong. How so, Saskia? Are you, like, originally... Let me see. Let me go back to the start of the round. So originally, this marker at the beginning of the round for the transition round was sitting here. And it has been since the when we cast on. But when we start the transition round, we take the last 6 stitches that are worked of repeat 51. We move them out of the way so we can get that marker and put them back on, so the marker is 6 stitches to the right. Okay. And so, sorry Karen, I'll just answer you in just one minute. So what that does, Saskia, is that when we finish one repeat of the transition round, you will always have 6 stitches left over with the stitch marker behind those 6 stitches. So what we do is slip the stitches out of the way, grab our stitch marker, and put it at the end of the transition round, or sorry, repeat. So that way we're moving our markers so that we can line it up with the crown so we can get the decreases to go the right way. This is going to happen all throughout this transition round, except for this one right here. Because where this one, that's our beginning of the round marker, or beginning of the round marker, this repeat here will have just exactly the right amount of stitches for that repeat in the transition. So